so my face.
Go forward.
Yeah, we're live. Yeah, don't know. Let's see. Oh, we have my people here. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Can you hear us? If anyone can type here, let us know if you can hear us. That would be
The
great.
sound quality is okay.
What's up, y'all? How are ya? Ronnie Akers? Was that Ace? Yeah, we saw you last time too. How are you today? Okay, great.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
All right.
so we got drop to 5.
Hello, Andreas.
A couple seconds here.
Yeah, let's give it one more minute, and we have a few topics to. Ryan has a few topics to share.
Some feedback and all that. A couple topics that's been compiled here. So.
Hey, Daniel. Good morning.
Yeah, morning there. Oh, I screwed that up.
Oh, what did you do? Here you go. All right, let's maybe start to talk about, you know, the topics are already posted on the description of the video. If you're interested to check it out, and just flip through, and then there's a list of questions we thought might be useful or helpful for people. Then if you guys have other questions, interested to know some more things, just post it right here, and Ryan will make sure he's gonna answer it.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So I guess we'll go ahead. It's a little 6:32 now, so we'll go ahead and get right into it. So first thing we had on our list of topics here was pre-emission or post-emissions. That's tier 4 final trucks versus before tier 4 final. I mean, that's your EGR has been around since the 1970s, so that's even on your pre-emission stuff. Even though you might say pre-emissions, EGR is been around, longer than I have for the most part. So you're gonna have that on anything. So I guess by what people mean by pre-emissions or post-emissions for the most part is if it has a DPF, SCR, and all that nasty stuff. So the rest of that question was for Landstar. So with Landstar, you have to have an ELD capable truck. So that's going to be in late 99 to 2000 or newer engine anyways. I mean, you could have a 1987 truck, but if you got a newer engine with an ECM that's capable of hooking up, to an E-log, then you're fine. But if you can't hook up an E-log, Landstar, they're not doing the paper logs anymore. So you'd have to have something that's capable of doing that. Now, as far as I guess pre-emissions, post-emissions is right around 2008 for the most part is when they went to the tier 4 interim, tier 4 final. Which the difference between the tier 4 interims, they burn diesel fuel instead of they still have a DPF and all that, but they burn diesel fuel instead of using DEF. Like my newer Massey Ferguson tractor, it's under 50. I think there's a horsepower requirement for ag off-road equipment of like 50, 60 horse, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit less. But it's under the requirement to actually use DEF. So it just has a DOC, and it actually burns these. It does a little regen and all that, and it actually does it burns diesel instead of DEF to burn it, to clean its filter. But if you don't have if I think it's 2010 now, 2010 and older can't go to California, I believe off the top of my head. So if you're not planning to go out to California, then if you're an East Coast guy or you're east to I-35 or you're just going to run Texas and east or whatever you're going to do, if you're not planning to ever go to California, then you don't have to worry as much about that. But I mean, me personally, I like to be able to go anywhere and do anything. I mean, if there's an opportunity that pops up, I don't want to cut myself out of that because my truck isn't set up for it, or isn't compliant, basically. So I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, I want to have something that's compliant. And with the current regime that's in power now, they are not they're anti-carbon, so there could be they can pretty much do whatever they want. I mean, they come out and say that okay, if you got a 2010 or newer, they could take you off the road. I mean, if they wanted to. I mean, under the Commerce Clause and all that stuff with the Congress and the Constitution and and all that stuff, they can control commerce, and trucking is commerce. So they could come out and say that these trucks are not compliant anymore and put you out of business basically. So that's why I've always had newer stuff. I mean, for the most part, my truck now is a 2013. So it's compliant, but it's getting a little bit up in age. So you just never know what's going to happen. So with that, I guess the third thing with that stuff is that these older engines, you get back to like Series 60 Detroit, C15 Caterpillars, and all that older stuff like that. Fuel's getting really expensive out here. I mean, I got 2 diesel pickup trucks. I got a diesel tractor, so you go through a little bit of diesel fuel even with around here, and the stuff that's the price is getting up there. So I mean, for the guys that out there burning 100 gallons a day, running big truck, like it's going to get painful, or if it isn't already painful, it's going to get more painful. It looks like as the summer progresses. So with that, but anyways, what I was kind of going away from my point there. But with these older engines, pre 2008, you're looking at something that's 13 years old plus. So I mean, fuel economy and efficiency, even with these emission systems, has gotten a lot better. With those older cats in Series 60s, I mean, you're going to be, even if you're running 60 mile an hour, you're going to be lucky to get 6 miles a gallon. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, from what I've seen, it's. I mean, with these newer engines, I mean, even I had a PACCAR MX-13 and a T680 with a 13-speed manual, and I've talked about it a lot. I drive when I can drive 80 mile an hour. I'm driving 80 mile an hour, whether empty, loaded, whatever. And my overall average with that truck with 336 rears, I mean, was this was a 2017 model. And I was averaging like over the life that I had the truck, 300,000 miles. I think my average is like 7.5. I mean, my current truck now, with that, 2013 to 2012, 2010 emissions, but 2012 built Cummins IS615, I'm down in the high fives. I'm 6 drive with those driving habits. So with those, if you're going to drive like I was driving with like a Series 60 or a C15, I mean, you'd be lucky probably to get in the fives, if high fours maybe. So it's going to, I mean, fuels, from what we found with doing our taxes and everything ourselves, running the numbers, fuel is your biggest expense. I mean, most your big, I mean, depending on your truck payment, I mean, for us, fuel was our biggest expense. And to, if you go, if you're going from 4.5 miles a gallon, 5 miles a gallon to 7.5, 8 miles a gallon, that's a 30% savings, when you're spending $45,000 in fuel a year. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But the thing with these emission systems, guys, it's just maintenance. I mean, if you do what they recommend, you keep up with it, get the every 200,000 miles or so, get your DPF clean. And maybe after 500-600, I would just look at replacing it, because I for a Cummins, I can get a brand new DPF, the canister, for like $1,200. I mean, it cost me over $600 to have them cleaned the time you buy everything. Because when I buy a new one, I actually get new gaskets and everything for it that come with it. If I get it cleaned, I got to buy those. And it takes the same amount of labor either way, whether I'm putting a new one in or putting a cleaned one back in. Other than that, it's just sensors and wiring. So, I mean, everybody's intimidated by these systems, but they're really not. They're a hassle. I mean, they are a hassle, but it's just knowing what's wrong. I mean, temperature sensors, NOx sensors, and NOx sensors are really expensive. I mean, NOx sensors now are, depending on where you buy them at. I mean, you've only got 2. You got an inlet and an outlet, or upstream, downstream NOx sensors. And I've paid on the low side $450 for them, and on the high side, over $700 for them. So it's really just being able to having, some type of a Bosch or something like that, something hook up to your truck, and looking at the codes that you're getting and deciphering that to, okay, it's this sensor or this sensor, and and looking at temperatures and all that. If you got if it's 70 degrees outside, and you got an SCR temp sensor reading, negative 10 or 30 degrees or something, that sensor ain't right, and that can, throw the whole system off. So it's, so I mean, long story short, I guess, I mean, I'm not a big fan of buying something that's 15 years old, and with getting the terrible fuel economy, especially with fuel prices, and being limited on where I can go now and where I could be limited to going to in the future. So that's kind of that topic. So,
Yeah, is D14 a good engine?
The N4, yeah, the N14s, yeah, I worked on those in the Navy. They're an older engine, but they're pretty. The military used them in the old 5 tons and all that. We had those in the Navy, so in the CVs. Yeah, they were pretty bulletproof engine for the most part.
Yeah.
So just kind of go through. What's that trucking? So we got Greenville, South Carolina here. Who else? All right. So sorry, I'm trying to keep up on everything, see what was posted here. So we got an 08 with an S60, and yeah, Series 60, that's 7.2. That ain't too bad. So yeah. The CM with
22.
No, I was I got out as a CM1, and I was at a lot of different places. I was at ACB1 from 04 to 08. Then I was over in Crete, Greece at Suda Bay for a while. I did a couple when I was in San Diego at ACB1, the Bone. I did a Westpac on the USS Tarawa with the 13th MEU and Beachmasters BMU1. And I also did an IA deployment with SEAL Team 7 and SEAL Team 10, where I was TAD from the unit down there to Spec Corps. I was with them for about 12 or 14, almost 14 months, I guess it was TAD to them. And then we did an deployment over in Ramadi, Iraq, up there at Shark Base and Blue Diamond. So then said after that, I went to Greece after that. Then after Greece, I came back to Great Lakes, and I was up there for 3 years at I was active duty, had a reserve unit, NCHB 7, for almost 3 years. And that's where I had orders to Yokosuka, Japan, the public works over there. But at that point, I was at the almost 10-year mark, and we decided to get out and stay somewhere for a while for the most part. So
yeah.
Right across for Wheeling, West Virginia. Yeah. The truck will be for sale pretty soon. So once I'm getting ready to start on the transmission stuff here next week, or Monday, Tuesday. I got a couple things to do tomorrow, but should get into that. Should only take me a day or so unless I get called away to get that transmission and clutch and all that in. Then we got a couple other little things to do. So, but my friend Jacko. Whoa, wink. Well, see, I think there was an EO that was a wink. It sounds familiar. Like I said, it's been a long time. I mean, almost 20 years ago. So, I'm not sure how much we're going to ask for the truck yet. Like I said, I've been looking at the market, and stuff's really high. And I plan on marketing this truck. I mean, it's going to have a new transmission. It's got all virgin Bridgestone tires on it, front, steers, drives, top of the line rubber for the most part. It's got the PDI in it. I'm going to throw in the Qualcomm IVG, which you can pretty much use at most carriers. I mean, Mercer, Landstar, all those carriers. That's going with it. It has APU. I still got some electrical gremlins, so I don't know how in depth I'm going to get into that. Yeah, so we're not sure yet. We just got to see how much we have into it here. So, but like I said, from what I've seen T6, 2015 T680s with 650,000 on them that are not terrible, mechanically, but this been pretty beat and don't have, they're just basic trucks. Nothing really flashy, no APUs. And I had one down at Kenworth at Canton that I actually looked at for a guy. And by the time I talked to him and, he called about it, and I told him, yeah, if you want to buy it, go ahead and buy it. It isn't too bad. By the time he had done that, the truck already had a deposit on it, was sold, and like I said, they were asking, I think they were asking 68,000 for that truck. So, which I think would, if I was looking, I mean, it is the way things are right now in the market, but I don't think it was much more than probably a $45,000-$50,000 truck in the normal world. So, like I said, I don't know how long we're gonna or how much we're gonna ask for it yet. So, but
The lady is your wife. Yes, I am his wife.
yes, this is my wife Sophia. So if you didn't know, so she, like I said, this live thing is a little bit new. I mean, most of the videos it's just been just me, but
so he want me to babysit him for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming. I mean, kind of starting out doing this, it's kind of overwhelming. So it's nice to have somebody else to. I'm not.
Hold your hand.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
All right. So, all right. So there's one more question we want to take from here before we go into our list. Is that what would you recommend the first truck to be?
I'm pretty.
Brian's truck, yeah, his truck's really good, decent, solid.
I guess I'm pretty partial to the Kenworths and Peterbilt's myself. I mean, it's PACCAR. A lot of the trucks, the frames, like the Peterbilt 567s, T680s, I believe the frames are the same. It's just a little bit different. A lot of the parts and stuff are the same. But I like the way, I think the KWs and the Peterbilts are more gear. I mean, they're more of an owner-operator truck. I think they're easier to work on. The engines and everything are out underneath the hood to where you can get to everything. Yeah. Whatever is that? What is that? Anyways. So yeah, anyways, there's a lot more, it seems like there's a lot smaller, like little Kenworth dealers all around the place. I mean, about anywhere you go, there's a little Kenworth dealer or something like that. So if you have issues, it's just a lot easier to get parts. And then if you need service, I mean, it could be easier to get service and whatnot as well. And I recommend, I mean, people have their opinions about Cummins. I mean, there's good ones and bad ones. I mean, the engine that I have, it was a CM 2250. As the IS615, they had a lot of issues with the 2250. The fuel pumps originally they had porcelain cups in them, or pistons, and they came apart and would trash basically the whole engine. I mean, luckily my truck was upgraded to the 2350 pump under warranty, so I didn't have those issues. But yeah, so I would recommend. I mean, Volvos aren't bad. I mean, there's a lot of good trucks out there, but like I said, I just prefer the Kenworths and Peterbilts. And in any way you go, I mean, even if you want the Volvo, or I mean, it's harder to find Volvo. I mean, the Volvos with Cummins, they sell for a premium because they're a lot easier to get worked on. If you have a Volvo engine, a lot of places they don't have the software for them. They can't get into them. They can't do nothing to them, and you're stuck going to Volvo dealers. But if you have a Cummins engine in a Volvo, you could go to Freightliner, you go to Kenworth. I mean, anybody that has, Cummins software, Cummins Insight, you get that truck worked on. So
this is good, right? Right? Just show, right?
What is that?
Show. I don't know. God of 400 comments. I don't think this is any bad,
Okay.
right? All right. So let's get to the next list before we take more questions.
Anyways, so we had some on the transmission clutch job I'm getting ready to do on my truck, on my 2660. Ask how that apply to a 10-speed automated manual in a 2018 T680. So if you have an actual automated manual, that truck has, for the most part, the same components as a regular manual transmission. It has a clutch, has a throw-out bearing, pilot bearing. Every engine has a main seal up in front of the flywheel and all that. So the only difference is, instead of having a gear, a shift tower that you shift with your hand, it has a computer that shifts the gears, or a solenoid, and a bunch of mechanisms that shift everything for you. And instead of having a clutch pedal and a hydraulic clutch with a master cylinder, slave cylinder, you may have there's a little solenoid, again, a little motor or whatever down there that actually is computer actuated and pushes the clutch, and when it's downshifting or upshifting. So it's all the same stuff for the most part. I mean, I can't get into specifics each. I mean, some of those I haven't worked on everything, but for the most part, that stuff's all you're gonna have those same components in there, unless you actually have a true automatic transmission, like in a car or something, which is completely different, which has a torque converter and it's basically a giant uh, planetary gears, sun gear, star gear, and all that system is way all that stuff plays out. But it looks, I've taken them apart before, but there are clutches and everything else in that. But it's completely different than what a regular manual transmission is. But most of the transmissions in trucks are manual transmissions that are automated, which means they're just computer controlled, and all the components are still there. They're just not. They're actuated by a computer, solenoids and drive motors and all that, instead of by human means. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of that. Third thing on here, outcome of my speeding ticket. So with that speeding ticket, I was getting on the turnpike up here in Streetsboro, not too far from where we're at, up on I-80 here in Ohio. It's getting ready to get off. A lot of times, instead of going, there's this one town called Streetsboro up Route 14. And there's, for some reason, like where I live at, my speed limit's 45 mile an hour here, and everybody wants to run like 70 down through here. But I get out on Route 14, because there's 2-lane state highway where the speed limit's 55. And for some reason, everybody wants to run 40 mile an hour up through there. And then you get up and there's like 30 stoplights, which I hate having to shift gears through all this, because it seems like you get stopped at every one of them. So a lot of times I'll cut up a different route and I'll get on the turnpike for about 5 miles and come back down to avoid all that mess. And so I was going to pick up my trailer one night at about 9 o'clock, and I had a couple trucks. I was in the middle. There's 3 lanes up there on I-80. Came around the first 2 of them, and I got up to the third one. I was about 3 miles roughly from my exit. And I got up this guy. I mean, I had a cruise set on like 75, running 5 miles over, and which, usually in Ohio, you don't have any issues with that. I pretty much always ran on the interstate highways. I've always ran like 75 here in Ohio. And since I'm not working for anybody, I'll put that out there. So, but yeah, pretty much in Ohio, you can get away with 75. I mean, I've driven by state troopers and everything else and never had an issue. Maybe other people have had other, maybe you catch somebody on their bad day and get pulled over, but I've never had an issue. So anyways, I was passing these trucks pretty quick, and I got up to this Volvo pulling an Amazon trailer that was like 8 different colors, and 3 miles from the exit. And I'm up next to this guy, and I'm like coming around him. Then I'm looking in my mirror, and all of a sudden this guy, he's speeding up, so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to slam on the brakes and cut in and cut the other guys off that aren't doing anything wrong. So I kind of put the pedal down, and before I got to the exit there's a crossover for the state troopers to sit right at the exit. And I seen him, and I had my signal on, and I was getting over after I had dusted this other guy in the Volvo. And I looked down, and I was going like 81 mile an hour. So yeah, he didn't even put his lights on. He just came. I pulled off the exit, and he came straight through. Then once I got around to before the toll gate there was actually a salt igloo thing there in a parking lot for doubles and triples. And I already knew it was over. Then he flashed my lights. I got over, and the guy was pretty cool. He's like, I told him what was going on. I was like, yeah. He's like, where are you going? I was like, I'm going to pick up my trailer. I'm driving to Reno tonight, or heading out to Reno, and. He said, you know how fast they're going? I was like, I don't know, maybe 78 or so. I was like, that guy sped up. I was trying to get off and all that stuff. And, he said, yeah, you're going 81 mile an hour. And I was like, yeah, probably. So he's like, yeah, you're getting the ticket. And he's like, I'll get you done real quick and get you out of here so you can get to work. And, he didn't do an inspection or anything. So unless they actually put the citation on I don't think he was a CSVA qualified or whatever. He wasn't a DOT officer in Ohio, because we have DOT officers in Ohio. And if you didn't know, they usually drive the white Chevy Tahoes, and they have blue lettering instead of the silver ones that have the regular state police logo. So if you see a white SUV with the blue state trooper logo, that is a DOT officer. They won't pull over cars. They only pull over trucks. So those are the ones you want to watch out for if you're in a truck. So anyways, he just gave me the ticket. He didn't write me, up any inspection form report or anything like that, because I don't think he was qualified to do so anyways, because he didn't even know where my license plate was as he was walking. He's like, where's your license plate? I was like, it's in front. So anyways, I called Landstar the next day, let them know about it, and told them what was going on and all that. Then I ended up getting an attorney, and he went to court. I had to pay him $300 up front, and he went to court, and I had a good driving record, and they even commented on that I hadn't had a speeding ticket in like 10 years almost. So ended up I had to pay court cost and I think $125 fine. So it was like $275 of court cost and the little fine that they gave me. And they actually knocked it down to a headlight, mechanical ticket. So not a moving violation. So it doesn't cost me any points on my license, and didn't basically affect my driving record for the most part. So I mean, Landstar, they still look at it as a speeding violation, evidently, from what they told me. So even though, unless you get it completely thrown out, which is going to be almost impossible, because if they throw it out, then they can't charge you the state or the county or whatever jurisdiction you're in. They can't, if they throw it out, then they don't get any money. So so you're going to have to take something. So at least it doesn't go on my insurance and raise my insurance rates for, personally or for my other business. So it ended up, like I said, I think it was like $275 for Ohio. Then the lawyer cost me $300, so it was almost $600 to get out of that one for the most part. So, but it is what it is. I guess they were. I was due for one, I guess you could say. So they finally caught up with me.
Yeah. Did you negotiate a rate with that Landstar agent?
Negotiating rates with Landstar agents, yes and no. So if you got a Landstar agent that has their business, I mean, it's a Landstar account, they've already negotiated those rates with their customer. So you're going to have, unless it's a distressed load, which they can't move, or it's somebody was supposed to pick it up and drop the load, or something like that happened. You're not going to, usually 9.5 out of 10 times, you're not going to get any more money, like I said, unless there was an issue with that load getting moved of some way. Other than that, I mean, okay, so now if there's a lot of agents that are pushing like third-party freight that work off the C.H. Robinson board and the DAT board and all that stuff. A lot of those or XPO is another one that they a lot of agents deal with. With those loads, a lot of times you can negotiate the rates, and sometimes they'll put a bid in on. You'll see a load posted, and they may have that load posted, say, for $1,500, and you'll call about it. Then they'll call, and somebody else might have bid another not outside of Landstar, another broker, another trucking company may have put a lower bid in for that rate, and the third broker may not have accepted that rate yet. So say they may come back, okay, you called about it at $1,400, and they might have another bid from another company, and you might have to take it for $1,400 if you want it. So it kind of goes both ways with that third party stuff. So but yeah, with the third party, like I said, with XPO, CH Robinson, stuff like that, it kind of depends on where you are and all that stuff. But a lot of times I've got them to throw. A lot of times you can ask them to throw $200 on the 100% side for loading, unloading, that type of stuff. And so that way you get a little bit more of a cut. So I mean, the time that it might work out, you might get 70% or 75% instead of the 65%. If you can get, like I said, if you can't get them. I mean, if the load ain't paying too well, and I've had loads going to Canada a lot of times, I'll get them to throw $1,000 on the 100% side for like unloading or whatever extra securement materials or whatever. And that way it kind of helps you out, because a lot of times when you go to Canada, you're not going to find anything coming back. So if you ever are going to go to Canada, keep that in mind as well, even though I'm kind of off topic. If you go to Canada, you're usually not going to get a load back to the U.S. You're going to be deadheading. So I always try to get extra, some put extra money on it, or extra money on the 100% side to use. So, but yeah, so like I said, if it's a Landstar customer, you're rarely going to get more money on it. If it's a third party, a lot of times, about half the time, I can usually at least get a couple $100 or $100 or something, or get some put on the 100% side. So like ask them, hey, can you give me some money for unloading, loading, and get them to throw a couple $100 on there. And it might, I mean, if you get like $300 thrown on the 100% side, it might equate to you getting like an extra $100 or so. So keep that in mind as a bargaining tool as well. But like I said, a lot of times these agents, they'll put bids in for these loads, and somebody else might bid. I mean, they're not playing. I mean, I've never been really. If I get a bad feeling about an agent or something, I just hang up, or I say, yeah, I'm not interested anymore. So I mean, I've never really been screwed for the most part. I mean, like I said, at Landstar, I had a pretty good experience. I mean, even at Mercer, I mean, their agents, they have a lot less agents, and they don't seem like they want you interacting with the agents. They want you going through the load coordinator, which I didn't like that arrangement, because I don't want to talk to somebody that's talking to somebody that's talking to somebody else. I want to get straight to who has the details. So that was kind of frustrating down there. But yeah, so that's kind of that.
The last question.
What was that?
How we met?
Yeah, so we met online, and back when I was in the Navy. So we talked for a couple years almost, I guess. Then after that, I went to China. I'd been to China in 2006. So I'd been there before, but my visa had expired and all that. So I think I went when I go back in 2010. So we've been married 10 years. She's been here since 2011. So our 10-year anniversary is actually next month. So, but yeah, so yeah, we met through, I can't remember the name, what it was.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
either.
but
Long time ago.
but I guess you can find decent people like that, and it will last a while, as you can see. So, we get into arguments and stuff like that, but somehow seem to work things out by the end of the day or the next day. So, but we had, disagreements a lot of times on finances and stuff like that. But I guess the thing is just to figure things out and make it work. So, but her parents have came to the United States, and they've helped us out with our kids, and that was kind of one of the reasons for us doing this change in businesses, because her parents are going to be going back to China. My father-in-law, her dad he has some cancer issues, and that's not going too well either. So we've kind of had to prepare, for us to do things on our own, and I got to be home more and all that. And as I said in the past, like the local stuff doesn't work out. I don't like the local stuff, and it drives me crazy. So with everybody on the road, then you got to drive on, a schedule you don't want to drive and all that stuff. But anyways, back to that. But so I went to China. I've been to China 6 or 8 times, I guess. So, and then we finally did a fiance visa, and I was still active duty Navy at the time, and I've always been pretty good at paperwork. I've always done everything myself. I learned in the military that paperwork is the Navy floats on a sea of paperwork, I guess. So I mean, when you get good at that, when I was in the Navy, came in as an E1. I graduated first in my A school class down in Port Hueneme, and I came out of there as after 6 months, I go to my command. I was an E4 and made E5 in 6 months. Then I made E6 my first time up. So I was from an E1 to an E6 in 4.5 years, and that's just learning the program and what you got to do and how things work and all that. And I guess knowing a little bit about your job helps too. But anyway, I keep getting off topic. But anyways, I did all the paperwork for her visa. Had like a stack of binders like this big that I sent into USCIS with all the evidence. I saved all of our chat history and everything. Printed all that off, sent everything in. We had plane tickets and stuff from every time I went to China. We went to the World's Fair down there in Shanghai in 2010, and we did a bunch of other traveling around and stuff like that. And we had all the evidence of that. Sent everything in, and I think her visa, they called her for an appointment. You had to go down to Guangzhou, I believe, for that appointment down there. And I think it was like 3 months or something after I applied. Everything was done. And so I said, a lot of people, they get attorneys and everything, but it's really not that. If you have all the evidence and everything you need, it's really not that big of a deal to do yourself. So, and like I said, these lawyers, she helps some Chinese people here do things, and some of these attorneys and stuff charge you $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and then they don't even do anything, and there's really no way to it's hard to fight an attorney in court when or it could be really expensive. So it's easy to do the stuff yourself if you're good at looking at. I bought a book that told me how to do step by step, how to put everything together and do everything, and follow those steps and put it together. And then after that, like I said, I bought a round trip ticket, and I got her a one-way ticket and came back and waited about a month, and we got married here, and then we put in for her green card after we got married, and that came back pretty quick too, relatively quick. Then after, was it 2 years, she did all her citizenship paperwork herself and is actually a citizen now here. So it's, like I said, it's not that hard of stuff. I mean, you just gotta to find somebody decent that doesn't want to take your money and all that stuff. So I never sent her any money over there. I don't think so.
No.
I don't think I ever sent you any money or anything. So that's one thing to be leery of, is somebody asking you to send them money and stuff like that, because there's a lot of scams out there. So in my mind, I was like, until I physically meet somebody. I mean, if she needed something, then I would have sent it to her. I mean, after I met her, but I would never, until you actually physically meet somebody. Don't ever send them any money or anything like that, or buy them anything major, because you just never. It could be some dude that you're talking to in Russia somewhere, instead of actually some pretty little Chinese girl or something like that. So just be careful with that stuff. But so I had one question here. David Morin, I believe. I hope I didn't screw that up. Water and fuel
sensor rating
T660. I would recommend on a T660. Okay. If you drain, I don't know if you've tried draining the fuel water separator. You might want to try that. And that's that globe. I mean, I hope I'm not insulting you by being simple, but right up on the firewall housing there's that first primary filter, the one that's clear that you can see through. There's a little valve on the bottom of that. You can drain that out, which you probably already know that. Maybe change that filter as well. Other than that, it could actually be the sensor itself. So, but if you do have a water issue, you may want to consider draining your tanks, getting your fuel tanks low and draining those out and flushing those fuel tanks out, because there are drain plugs too. So you might want to clean those out too if you do actually have a water issue. So that's kind of the light answer for that, I guess.
Robert?
Yeah, Robert. How do you feel about the PACCAR MX-13? I had a PACCAR MX-13. I had pretty good luck with it. Pretty good engine. They're easy to work on. I mean, they're real clean engine. What I mean by clean engine, I mean they're not a big monstrosity where you can't get to nothing. So they're pretty easy to work on, I think. The only negative thing about the PACCARs is that they're tricky to get into. I mean, with the software, the jaw test software that I have, I can clear D rates and do force regens and a lot of other stuff. But a lot of times, like I had a guy here a couple weeks. He was actually here on Friday to put a def level sensor in for him. But he has I can't remember what the exact code was. There was an issue with injector number 2, a miss, or I think it was it was getting too much fuel for what the engine, the power rating that it was at, for what the engine was running at. The code was for, it was getting over. I can't remember the exact terminology how they put it, but it was getting too much fuel for basically where the engine was running at. And that could be simple as a valve adjustment, or it could be a fuel injector. And I was going to run an injector a cutout test, and I can do an injector test as well, but with Cummins. But on the PACCAR, it wouldn't let me do any of those tests with my software. So they are tricky to get into. I mean, with the Bosch HDS 200 and 250, you can get in there and read codes and stuff and see what stuff is, but it won't let you clear anything with that. So you almost have to have the Davey PACCAR software to do anything with those. So then that kind of ties you to PACCAR dealers, which is Peterbilt and Kenworth. So like I said, unless you can get that Davey software, which I believe their annual renewal on that, because like with my software, I can work on ag equipment, highway equipment, construction equipment, and they just added material handling equipment like JLG and Heister forklifts and all that stuff. And my renewal is like $3,000 a year at this point, and that's with the tech data portion as well. For Davey, I believe it's in the PACCAR software. I believe they're in the range of $2,000 to $2,500 a year, just their annual subscription. So it's unless you had 100 trucks or something, it's a pretty expensive cost to renew every year. So
Let's go like short if you can. Volvo.
2013 Volvo D13 900K oil sample came back excellent.
What do you think when this engine goes out? Or rebuild, buy new?
I mean, it depends on what your oil consumption is. I mean, I know like with Cummins, I'm not sure what Volvos are. I mean, once you're using a quart per 500 miles is where they say you need to rebuild with Cummins. So, I mean, I'm not sure what Volvo's specs are. But yeah, I mean, if the truck's running good and your oil consumption, I mean, if you're not putting a gallon of oil in it every day or something like that, and it does the job, and if you're getting halfway decent mileage and you like the truck, I mean, I would probably just hold on to it, and especially if it's paid for, because with fuel prices and all that coming up, you just never really know what we're coming up against here in the future. So truck trans is stuck in drive and now will not communicate with the truck after shutting down for low voltage while driving. Not yet. Yeah, that's an issue I'd really have to look at. Yeah, it's a no. Yeah, I don't really have I mean, without really looking at that, what model and all that it is, I don't really have a lot of advice for you on that one at this point. I haven't worked on a lot of automated. I prefer a manual myself. It's just less. I know they have an endorsement for it now to drive a manual. If you haven't taken a test, you can take your CDL test in a manual, but it just seems like a lot less. Yeah, you're going to lose a little bit of fuel economy and all that, but you don't have a whole extra wiring harness and a bunch of extra sensors and another computer module and other solenoids and all that stuff in play there as well. I have a DPF sensor code on my T680. But that's Daniel Fox, as I should have said, but the code only comes on if you turn the truck off and on, but if you clear the code and keep running, it doesn't come back. That could be a sensor. I mean, the emissions on, I mean, whether it's a PACCAR or a Cummins, emissions is basically the same because PACCAR uses all Cummins emissions. But I don't know what there's several different sensors. You have, your NOx sensors, your differential pressure sensor on the DPF, and there's 3 temp sensors on the DPF as well. So I'm not really sure which one that exactly is. What was the timeout codes? I'm not sure what that is. 2016. Let's go. What's the most miles that I recommend on a used truck? It really depends on who it came from. I mean, if it's coming from like a fleet or something where they're doing, where they're not changing the oil until 80,000 miles, I mean, I probably wouldn't buy one over 350. Now, if it's like an owner operator or something, somebody that you can trust them, that they've maintained the truck and it's been like that from day one, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem buying something with 500, 600, 700,000 miles if I know that it's, looking at it, doing a good inspection on it, going in and looking at it electronically, and then, taking oil samples and all that good stuff. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem buying something higher mileage, but I know a lot of guys buy the older, Snyder used trucks and all that. And this Snyder, when I was there, their maintenance interval was like 78,000 miles. They're governed at 63 mile an hour, so they're carbon packed and everything else. And they usually turn them loose at like 600,000 miles roughly, maybe a little less. And I wouldn't really recommend buying something like that because they know these big fleets and all that. They know when the problems start. They know when to get rid of them. So they've just passed the problems along to you. So like I said, if it's a smaller operator, maybe somebody with 50 trucks or something, maybe less, or an owner operator that and you can see maintenance records, see when things were done, then I wouldn't have a problem taking some of the higher mileage. But like from a bigger fleet, I probably wouldn't go over 350, quite honestly.
So. Well, I have Just Trucking asked me how do I like this, like living in China. Okay. Yeah, that'd be a good
And
question.
we're a little bit, we're already over when we started like
All
that.
right.
So,
We're gonna make this the last question to take, at least for today. We'll have more sessions later. Yeah, I lived in China for 24 years before I moved to United States. Living in China, the most thing, living here for so long, and the thing that I miss most about China is the food. There's so many different food. There's so many different ways of cooking, and there's the street food is just awesome. So I'm missing. I miss the food. It's also cheap to buy. So with the money you make from United States and you go back to China, you can buy tons of different things and you can eat and live really well. So yeah, food is the thing that I miss the most, and of course family members. I miss my family. Most of my family still live there. Then about living, I went to school there, and then I never worked in China, never worked single day in China. So I don't really know the working life there, and that's the life you actually have control, because you finally out of college, out of your parents, and you started living your own life. So I don't have that kind of experience in China, so I don't know. So that's pretty much most thing that I miss in China. I still want to go back to China sometimes to visit and to eat food, and but I think I already pretty much settled here, and like the life here. Um, I just like the backyard, my own house, and the
not
community.
as much people. It's
Yeah, it's
very
crowded
crowded
in China.
there
It's
and
definitely
really
crowded.
busy all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't like. We were there. We went to Taiwan, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Macau, and then we swung back around to China to pick where our son went back with her parents for like a month. But yeah, the last time we went there, I mean, with before when it was the old premier, whatever president, whatever they call leader over there, um,
Hu Jintao?
the other guy,
Mao?
no, not the one, the guy before,
Xi Jinping?
yeah, that guy, the Toadmaster guy,
Who's that?
Toadmaster looking
I
guy.
forgot about it.
Anyways, things seem to be a lot more like relaxed and all that. And then with this new guy, the last time I was there, there's cameras everywhere, and it just this made me really had a like high anxiety level the whole time, really kind of nervous. So I was kind of happy to leave, and I don't know if I want to go back again.
Well,
So
the thing is that you live in that country, and if you don't break the rule, you just live a normal life, act like a little
do what you're
guy,
told, and
you do what you're told, then you're good. Actually, all the cameras protect you, and
I don't
like
think
they
so.
have the most like if somebody steal your stuff, you have theft and stuff, they can catch those guys real quickly. So you feel safer to live there if only if you follow the rule. You're not somebody gonna break the rule and have them to catch you. Yeah, that's China. I still miss China, but yeah, haven't been back for a while. Yeah.
Let me catch up with Daniel Fox's question. Hey, that
Okay.
differential pressure sensor, I had that issue on my truck. You could try changing that out. It's not that expensive. It's pretty easy to change out. It's right on the side of the DPF. It's the one that has, it's got, I actually did a video on it, so you can look that up as well. But it's got two little rubber lines that go to the front of the canister and the backside, the before ash and after ash part of the canister. So it could be a sensor, or it could actually be your DPF is about. I mean, I don't know what your readings are as far as before ash and after ash pressure readings are. So I mean, you could actually you could be close to needing a cleaning. So I don't know when the last time you actually cleaned it or replaced the DPF as well. And then the third thing, I replaced the whole wiring harness on my DPF SCR, which that was almost as much. I think it was like $700. It was almost as much as the entire engine harness as far as the price for the harness, because there's that wiring getting heat and cooled and all that over time. It doesn't. Then you throw in salt and all that. It just doesn't last forever. But that was relatively easy. I think it only took me 30 minutes or something to change that thing out. So I would start with that sensor, that differential pressure sensor. I believe is only about $50-$60, maybe a little bit more now, but you might want to start with checking that out. Then if that doesn't solve it, then I would probably look into what those pressure readings are, and see if you actually how many times your truck's done regions and all that, where you're at on that, you might need a cleaning or replacement. So that's kind of that. But anyway, so
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for staying with us for so long. Hopefully the session is not really boring. Yeah, we'll continue to collect some good questions and think that might be helpful for other people. And thank you. We really appreciate everyone who stayed with us the whole session. The people who jump in later on. We really appreciate you be with us the whole time. Yeah.
all right, we appreciate it, guys. Yeah, when we start on that, like I said, that transmission, we'll probably have get a video out on that, starting to take that guy out and putting that back in. And I'm gonna throw a new set of kingpins in that truck too. I already bought those a while back, so I probably don't quite need them yet from the readings I took, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So, oh, there's Greg.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
everyone.
hope the truck, the depth level sensor is working out good for you. And hope Virginia isn't too hot and humid.
Jose said, "Love you guys." Yeah, we love you too. Love everyone who supported us through the whole time. Give us a like if you can. That'll really help us. Get more people to know us, and yeah, that'll really help us a lot. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great weekend. I'll
What's
see
left
you.
of it.
What's up? Yeah, we'll see you probably in the next week or a couple weeks in another live session. All right, bye, guys.
All right, we'll see you later. Thanks.